To call to order this, what day is it? June 12th, Sylvania Board of Education meeting. Call the roll, please.
Ms. Huffman?
Here.
Mrs. Conklin?
Here.
Mr. Feller?
Here.
Mrs. Johnson?
Here.
And Mrs. Lavalette is absent.
Okay, let's stand for the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we are starting out with the presentation this evening, Dr. Motley.
Yes, we are, Ms. Conklin. Good evening, everyone. Our team is here this evening to provide an overview of a one-year update on our strategic plan, which we all know is a 5-year adventure of a plan of where we see ourselves going in the future. And I thought it was important that, even though we rolled out the plan last fall and really last summer and really started to launch the work of the plan last fall, I think it's important that not only our board members are made aware of what we've accomplished year one, but that our community, we take advantage of this opportunity to share with our community what we've been able to accomplish in year one. Some things we were able to make great strides in reaching our goals. In other areas, not like on any other plan. Quite frankly, sometimes you get down the road and you find out we have to like step sideways before we can step forward or take a step back because we might need to involve more people or have further conversation or legislation has changed and how we approach our work. So tonight we have a representative from each of our departments here to discuss these specific areas of our strategic plan. And I'm going to kick it off by just talking a little bit about a review. So our mission, we have Mr. Koch as our clicker tonight.
Shouldn't have been trusted.
We said that at the top. Anyway. Just, and for each of our board members, I just emailed it to you, so if you don't want to look at it here, you have it available to you via email. But why do we exist as Sylvania Schools? We educate, empower, and inspire students to reach their full potential as lifelong contributors to a global society. And when we look at our vision, Sylvania Schools will be the leading school district in Ohio. And of course, as I stated earlier, this is a 5-year plan. When we look at our core beliefs, we have several, and this really is what centers our work, it anchors our work in everything we do. And the decisions that we make, when we give consideration for digging for root cause and seeking out why do we do our work, why are we making certain decisions, what is the purpose, we focus on our core beliefs. I'm not going to read the screen to you. These have been out for a while now, but here are the other three. You'll see collaboration, community, and continuous improvement. These are core beliefs that our staff, our educators, our administrators, our paras, our bus drivers across the board have embraced, because we believe with these core beliefs we will continue to really demonstrate the tradition of what Sylvania Schools has been known to have. So we have some goal areas and strategic priorities, which you are familiar with these. Just a caveat for those of you that are here tonight and those who may be watching later. The fiscal planning and responsibility portion of the presentation, because Adam went over his 5-year forecast last time we were together, we will not be covering that area this evening, but we will cover the other 4 areas. So first we are going to hear from Carla Spangler, Director of Secondary Education, and she's going to be reviewing teaching, learning, and innovation results for year one. So thank you, Carla, for being here this evening.
Thank you. And I would like to start out with, I am just one of 4 chairmen on this team. And you might wonder why we need 4 chairmen, but I think putting the 4 of us together, we really had the whole child in mind. So Melissa Romero, and everybody's here tonight. Melissa Romero is our elementary, obviously, director, covered the elementary part of this action steps or these plans. Laura Lowe, you know her as our Director of Special Ed, but actually she covered all the subgroups for us, so we made sure that we did not let any subgroups out of the mix. Obviously, I had the 6 through 12 responsibilities, and Cheryl O'Shea, our technology person, was with us on all the different parts, making sure that we had all the technology covered and innovation. So with that, we divided our part into 4 subgroups, and you can read it all, but putting it briefly, a framework for continuous improvement. I think that's really what we're thinking of, and we continue to think of as we do every step of our plan. Our goal along the way is to create a framework for continuous improvement for our students every step of the way, whether it's programs, whether it's curriculum, whether it's anything creative with technology, it's the framework, and that's what we feel we first needed. And you will see as we move forward, we're using the framework in everything we do. We are trying to be consistent, equitable for all students, and you'll see in the future we're going to work on MTSS, which is our multi-tiered system of support to make sure that all students have the opportunity to be educated. So we started with really Julie Sanford, who was not one of the chairmen, but a key person on our committee, who led much of our data work throughout the entire year. So she started with educating us on what data we should be looking at. I think that's where we started. And then again, we used that data to go down deeper and deeper and deeper until we met the needs of the students. So as you can see, we started with bi-monthly administrative meetings. So our principals would meet every other month after school to talk about the big picture in their buildings. And then every other month between that, we met and looked at data. We also noticed what data we didn't need. So sometimes we just had lots of data, and some of it really was too much, didn't meet the needs of the building. So they analyzed the data. We even looked at data that we got from regional consultants, and then we used what met the needs in their buildings. We also looked at the report card, and we looked at our OST results. So we took that, what we saw here at the principal meetings, and it wasn't just the chairman. On our committee was also district representation. So we had teachers on our committee and other administrators. So we took the data that we received at the district level, down to the building level, down to the classroom level. Some of the buildings have even done professional development among their teachers to look at the English and the math portion and really dive into what they could do to make a difference with students. So if you just back up one. We also noticed when we did the data that some people didn't know how to find it or read it. So our technology department did Power School training, not only with secretaries, but some with teachers. They also are doing Promethean board training. A lot of people don't know what Promethean boards are, but they're the latest pieces of technology that can be used in the district, like what you're looking at. And then we have additional training needed on data that they offer to secretaries and all staff in the buildings. I think what's most exciting for us is we got out of our comfort zone and we got out of the district and we went to other areas to see what they were doing. So we went to Marysville first, and in Marysville we saw a lot of use of data, how it was helped students to be educated. We brought that back. It wasn't just us, but it was a group of teachers, other administrators, and some of our colleagues that went to Marysville. Then recently, McCord Junior High and some of the staff went to Hall Prairie, and at Hall Prairie we looked at technology. We also went to Northwest State Community College, and there we looked at technology to be used in career tech programs. So I feel like our technology department has been vital with helping us see how we can improve all aspects of our education in the buildings and in our programs. The Promethean boards are obviously taking the place of smart boards. We're looking at diagnostic assessment, and I think it's exciting, hopefully, that this is going to be a key for other buildings. McCord is working on an interactive media center. And just so you know, and Dr. Motley really worked with us on this, I think, and with their staff. They started out really rearranging the seats on the Titanic. They wanted to change their library into a more useful room. Dr. Motley said that's not enough, that's not enough, that's not enough. So finally, that's a group that went to Hall Prairie, saw all the things that they're doing in Hall Prairie, and now they're bringing some real technology into that room. And I think it's going to be a real interactive room that everybody in the building can use, all of our subgroups, all of our classrooms. So I think it's going to be exciting. And if it is what we hope it'll be, we'll be able to do that in other buildings in the district. At the elementary level, I think what's most important is Melissa's, with her team, is really bringing us up to speed on everything we need, the science of reading and dyslexia. There's dyslexia laws that we need to follow. She made sure that we're not only following them, but our teachers have had professional development in that area, and we'll be prepared next year and in the future. We're exactly where we should be with our teachers in the district. Two of our buildings also piloted iReady. For those that are not familiar, it's a different assessment. We've been using STAR assessment. We're going to switch to iReady. It's much more user-friendly. The teachers really like it. So 2 buildings piloted this year. All the elementary buildings will be using it next year. We also expanded our STEM program this year at the elementary. We added to our GATE program, not only at the elementary, but at the junior high and high school. And we implemented typing, a typing program. We've always had a version at the elementary. Next year, we'll be adding to that version at the junior high to give the junior high students even more background in different areas of typing that they really need to be successful with testing, so they can move faster when they take their test. At the high school level, all the departments met this year. So every one of our different cores and our special ed department met this year. Special ed teachers were always included in the department meetings, so we were able to make sure we aligned those needs with the needs of all students. At the math level, we added the resources they needed, and their department told us that algebra is probably the best grades that they've had in years, and they believe that's from the resources that we added this year. English to date when they came together, they realized they weren't using the same resources, but they want to, so in the future, they will be using the exact same resources. Social studies, I'm mostly excited about American history and world history because they're very interactive curriculum that they're getting for next year. They are up to date. The interactive part and the part that's computerized will be updated weekly. So anything new that happens, we will know about that like the week after it happens. The kids will be able to look at it. Environmental science is also using the same company. So because they're all attached to Schoology, students will know one format and will be able to move seamlessly from one class to the next. AP Environmental Science will also be up to date. Another thing that all the departments have done at their last meeting, I asked them to give us a list of what they accomplished this year and what their future plans are for next year. So we have that going forward, so we should have a seamless transition into next year and to continue with the department meetings. At the career technology area, all programs, with the exception of engineering, will be updated prior to the end of, prior to going back to school in the fall. So we're really excited about those. They meet industry standards, and the career tech teachers have all met with their business advisory board, so they're all up to speed also with what we're doing. So I think we had a great year. I think we had a lot of accomplishments, and I think it's because the strategic plan made us intentional. So that's us. We are starting MTSS. That was not scheduled for this year. It is scheduled for next year. The team has already started meeting, they meet every other week, and so we should be able to put something in place going forward.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
I have one, the data that you talked about at the beginning, that everybody was looking at the data. What kind of data were you looking at? Test scores, grades?
We have the OST test scores, we have the other test scores that we get from, like the STAR testing that we've done with the students. And Julie's able to just compile all that, and she gives it out to each building, and then the buildings kind of decide what is relevant with their students, and that's what they were diving into. Now, I know one building wanted to look at more data, it was Arbor Hills, and they spent a whole day researching and diving into their data and kind of decided that they had too many kinds, and they kind of zeroed in on, something special that they knew made a difference just for them in their building.
So if I can add to that, not to interrupt, so one of the things that was really important to the team at the beginning of the year is to model that data conversation framework and process for leaders. So we could have picked, we talked about the fact that we wanted to model that process, and we could have used any type of data to do that, but as we met regularly throughout the year after the initial modeling was rolled out and that framework, that reflective framework was rolled out, we did use a lot of the state data that was released through the consultant, through the county and so forth. But it was, the important aspect was guiding our instructional leaders, our building principals to understand the framework and have that mindset of we can talk about any type of data that's important to us. If they identified a root cause or a need for a root cause in their building to improve student outcomes, what data is important and how do we consistently look at that data, how do we consistently talk about that data, and how do we consistently use that to make the process work.
And then to help with our instruction, when we look at the Centralized Reporting Center and our secure data, Julie Sanford would look at our longitudinal data to look at what are some areas that we always seem to be struggling with and what are our strengths. And then that paired with the centralized reporting system, when we're able to examine that from our OST data, we can go in, share that with principals, and then they can look at each building's strength and weaknesses to say what's gonna help them plan for the following year as their goal. So that's something that we really intentionally did this year. And then we also met with the ESC of North East Ohio with Mindy, and she's a data consultant that helped us with item analysis data for longitudinal data that we also had paired with item analysis to look at what are some weaknesses, again, that students may not be scoring well in, but what are they doing really good? What are we doing well? What do we need to strengthen? And using that to lead our buildings. So it's been really intentional and targeted for how we're planning for upcoming years.
So we can actually know for a fact that we have increased in every one of these areas this year, and we have data to support not only that our general and across the board students are doing better, but our subgroups are doing better. And I just want to add, and I think I put it in there, but I forgot to say thing. Melissa McDonald has been in charge of our EL population this year, and she is very, very intentional about their education and what best meets those needs. We have some co-teaching going on at the high school level. We have, I think, teachers placed appropriately with their best skills to help students, and I think we've seen good results with those students also this year. And our technology implementation has been great. We've added it a lot to some of the career tech programs that have needed it. We've added some new computer labs to the career tech programs. So I really feel like we're getting up to date and where we should be moving our students forward.
Thank you, Carla. I would like to add a couple of points. When we look at our specific results, I know sometimes data has a bad connotation. I like to really refer to data as evidence. We always need to inspect and take a pulse on how our students respond to our instruction. One of the things I have been known to share or say, and I've heard it actually repeated by some of our administrators, that data and evidence is to be used as a flashlight to highlight, as Melissa said, what we're doing well and areas where we need to enhance. We're a marvelous district. We are an amazing district, and our students perform very well across the board. In addition to that, it's always important to say, if we know that over 5 years that we are not doing well on a particular geometry standard, which is tough because that geometry test is a bear. But if we're not doing well and we find year after year after year, then we need to think about how we bring our teachers together in the math department from both high schools and say, look, neither high school is doing well in this area. What can we do to change our teaching strategies? Because our educators are the experts. And it gives them an opportunity to come together and talk and say, what can we do differently? At the same time, celebrating when we're knocking the socks off in another area, because they are the experts and they want to collaborate. And I believe I heard from Carla earlier this year, it was the first time, I believe, in 10 years, Carla, that our teachers actually met in a collaborative way by department and spoke about curriculum, resources, standards, how you may be teaching a standard here, you're teaching a standard, we may share ideas, I may borrow that idea, or we may work together to develop something different in order that we can impact teaching and learning. So we've done the same thing at elementary. We've gone through a lot of training with dyslexia training, and although it's driven by the law, I would say that it's the conversations that educators are able to have that are also contributing to what we see as our specific results. So I also wanted to add, I shared, I believe this past week, we look at attendance data, we look at discipline data. It's not always, because there are other things that impact teaching and learning. We know that some children have different risk factors that they bring to our school doors. And so we also have to look at the quantitative and also the qualitative, because there often is a story behind specific kids. And I do know that our administrators help our staff, our counselors, and our social worker to find out how can that have a negative impact and what can we do to help fill that need. If it's an alarm clock, if it's clothing, if it's making sure they're eating, if they need, if there's a transportation issue, if it's technology, connecting because they don't have internet at home. So I do want to also share with not only our Board of Education, but our community, that we do look at, again, the whole child. It's not just data in isolation, but it's the whole child. So next we have social, emotional, and mental well-being of our students, and I believe Mr. Zeroff is going to take that.
I know Melissa McDonald's here as well. She's a part of this committee, but I do want to recognize these individuals. I'm not going to read them name by name, but this was a group of counselor psychologists, one teacher, community members, board member with Jill, and then administrators Kyle and Melissa. You know, we've been involved in the strategic planning for 2 years. This group has convened for about 15 months, where we created our goals, back in like March, April, May of last year. And once our goals were established, which we'll dive into, we talked about, as difficult as those were to come up with, the hard part was now going to take place going into year one on diving into those goals and trying to, make advancements or achievements with them. And without question, I've been a part of a lot of committees in this district. This is one of the best, and I'm not taking anything away from any other committee I've been a part of, but these folks have been unbelievable. And regardless of who may or may not continue on this committee moving forward, I know the work will continue to be done by these individuals on this group. So I wanted to recognize all those people. They are outstanding. And it's a pretty big topic, a very big topic that we dove into. So thanks, Adam. These are our 5 sub-goals for the topics. Curriculum, roles, responsibilities, job descriptions, student wellness, staff wellness. I'll dive into each of those briefly. I know Melissa will as well. I will say the 2 that we have probably the most work to do with, and I know we'll get Josh involved from a human capital perspective. We did meet a couple times this year with SEA and even OPSI and Josh, just on our job descriptions. Those are pretty broad across the board from our perspective as far as the overall teaching and curriculum staff goes, but it is work that will continue to be done. I know Josh will be brought in more, even though he's not on that first page. So our first goal we dove into was curriculum. By the end of 2027, I'm kind of starting at the third bullet before the first one. We want to have a common social emotional curriculum established in grades K through 12, so we're all speaking the same language. We're all, referring to the same topics, et cetera, as students, whether they're a kindergartner or a fifth grader or a sophomore in high school. So we did implement second step, the electronic version of that this school year for grades K through 5. This is the first year we've had it electronically. Based on the feedback we received from those principals and counselors, that went very well. Moving into next year, year 2 of our Playing with curriculum, our junior highs will be implementing it. Good news for our junior highs is that Timberstone's been doing it the last 2 years, so they've taken the lead. They are meeting with both Arbor Hills and McCord teachers and counselors this summer. They're willing to put that work in. They're self-evaluating this week, what's gone well, what needs to be improved on. Because they've done it for 2 years, they can then work with Arbor Hills and Timberstone on how to move that second step curriculum forward going into next school year. Second step still is working on social emotional curriculum for grades 9 through 12. We're hoping to have that completed by the end of the 23-24 school year. Not saying we would have to use that, but again, going back to those common themes and common language, it would make sense to be able to use that again through grades K through 12. We'll keep evaluating that to see where they are with that curriculum. The goal is to have it done by the end of this year, that we can hopefully implement that curriculum then into our 9 through 12 buildings in both Northview and Southview. Job descriptions, roles, and responsibilities. Again, I said these are a couple we need to dive into a little bit more. I combined them. We have made some strides though. A couple of issues we've addressed. One, by the start of next school year, we will have hired 2 social workers. I know the one we hired this past year, Ava Draper. I know Melissa McDonald has worked very closely with her this year. She's been outstanding. Her office is right out here in the annex. Just another resource, not only for our administrators and teachers, but most importantly our families to refer to. So to add a second one of those going into next school year will be very beneficial for the district. We want to take some work off of our counselors so they could focus more on the social-emotional mental well-being of our students. One of the big pieces in our high school is the AP testing process. That takes about 2 months out of counselors' day-to-day jobs with AP testing. We did pull that off of counselors this year, put it on administrators with Julie Sanford, Gracie Lloyd at Northview, and Sarah Leewell at Southview. I know it threw more work on them. Very appreciative of the 3 administrators for what they've done there to allow those counselors to dive in more with what they should be doing day to day instead of maybe always implementing testing. And then we also, Josh worked on this one. He was integral in this portion of it, even though it has kind of backed off a little bit. But you guys probably all remember during COVID or shortly after COVID when teachers had to quarantine and isolate for 5 and 10 days. And we also had a sub shortage. We were having to use extra duty with reading teachers, gate teachers, counselors to fill in to sub for our teachers. We did change that protocol going into this year, knock on wood, even though we didn't have to touch it, where we did move counselors lower on that totem pole so they weren't having to step up first to teach a class rather than, again, being there for the social emotional well-being of the students. So good news with that is our absences have been lower and our sub pool has been higher, so we really haven't had to dive into that substitute protocol that we put in place the last couple of years. And again, as I said to start this week, we are still needing to complete some work in the coming years with specifically the job descriptions for this goal, or these goals. Staff wellness, I'll turn over to Melissa for this one, as she's taken on a large portion of focusing on our staff.
So we had a contract with a company this year called 1 in 5. It was part of our deal with Beyond Healthcare as well, where they were able to provide virtual wellness sessions for our staff. They also, at the beginning of the year, were able to survey all staff. So it was OPSI, SEA, and administrators to get feedback on where staff wanted some input or some things that would increase their overall well-being and how they would want to receive that, whether it was before school, after school, during lunch. So we did use a lot of that information and we turned that over to the wellness committee. So our staff wellness committee was reestablished this year and Josh has taken the lead on that. We did several events buildings have done different things at the building level. We had a family fun walk at the beginning of May that all staff and family were invited to as well. So some of our future goals with the mental health and the wellness committee will kind of work hand in hand to come up with initiatives for the staff, and then we'll also try to provide some opportunities during our professional learning days in the future for staff.
And then the last goal that we have is, and again, I don't like to say one is more important than the other, but just looking at our overall student wellness, we did have the opportunity and we completed a large portion of this goal year one, and that was to research outside resources and agencies to provide a universal screener for our students. And I know we have board approved in the past couple months just our partnership with Dr. Brandon Wood from the University of Toledo. We do have a 3-year contract with him. We are using ESSER funds for this year. We were fortunate enough, I did put it in soup notes, we did secure the Stronger Connections grant through the ODE, which will help, which will supplement his partnership for the 2 years after that. Big piece with his job, we do have a separate subcommittee off of our strategic planning committee, which is the universal screeners in our buildings. Dr. Wood does this in Toledo Public Schools, as well as Swanton Schools, Patrick Henry Schools. And it's self-explanatory. We will just, through parent consent, allow a screener to see the mental health of our students, whether it be half of a 9th grade class, an entire 9th grade class. We're going to focus on our secondary levels first, get into our junior highs, and then hopefully eventually down the road, and that language would have to be different when we screened the mental health of our elementary students, but it is something we feel is important and we need to do. But it's just a process to see where our kids are at. And one of the questions on there, it's about I think his screenings take 5 to 6 minutes, but one of the questions is, we've met with him twice now as a group, is I am in need of some significant social emotional help as I am filling this out. And one of the hang-ups we've had with this is when that gets alerted, and that can be anywhere from 2% of the population up to 14%. He says it's generally about 10% of kids will click yes on that. So if you're screening half of a sophomore class, you're screening 150 kids, you're going to have 15 kids who alert that they need some help. So one of the red flags that was brought up with us is we don't want to just put the screener out without having the resources in place to address those kids who need the immediate counseling. So Melissa and I have worked with, we actually met with Carrie Sarabia, we contract with Tackle, RFS Behavioral Health. I know she is working with the Sophia Center. You're meeting with her next week, this week?
This week I'm meeting with Polly Gherkin.
Polly Gherkin. So we do have some outside resources who can offer those therapeutic supports for students in need. That we only met, like I said, twice, but that was the one hang up at both our high schools is what are we going to have in place once we roll this out. So we are moving forward, confident we can get a screening done in both of our high schools going into the 23-24 school year, as well as have those supports to address those students who are in need. Take it from there. Did you have anything else you wanted on the student wellness?
Just a big part with the screener, the way Dr. Wood is explaining it, is the data that we will receive will let us know what tier of support a student may be in need of, and if it is that tier 3 immediate support, we will be able to link them up with outside agencies to provide that mental health support. If it's a tier 2, maybe that's something that our social workers or school counselors can do, and then tier 1 would maybe even just be something as simple as a school counselor check-in once a week, where all students have access to a school counselor. So the subcommittee will work on putting that together before we even think about moving forward, and have all of that established and all hands on deck when we move forward with those student screeners.
Yeah, he shared some data. Melissa and I met with him last Thursday. He shared some data with us this weekend that the ODE released. And this past school year, a school-age child, grades K through 12, committed suicide once every 34 hours. Based on their, yes, that was pretty significant. So he's confident that this is something the ODE is going to mandate moving forward. He says there's talk already with state legislatures, et cetera, so it's good we're kind of getting ahead of the game with this, because it's probably something that districts are gonna be expected to do down the road. Even if they don't, even if the ODE doesn't require.
It's the right work.
It's the right work that we're doing, and this is a big one, so. That's all we have, unless anybody has any questions for us.
I would like to say thank you for meeting the sense of urgency that we know surrounds this topic, not only for our students, but our staff and our families. And I know it's been a challenge in that when I speak to other superintendents in the area, unfortunately, it's easy to identify the need. The difficulty is in securing the right support quickly to support the child so they have the appropriate response to help them at the time they need it. And that's a challenge I know in our area, I'm assuming across the state, but I really want to say kudos for your work and being responsive and acknowledging the folks in the community, because we do realize this is a serious issue. And we need to find ways to support our children, and it's a community piece. So it's great that you're reaching out to folks locally here that hopefully will have a quick response time and it can help us support our youngest Sylvanians in some aspects. So thank you for your work.
Yes, thank you.
Next up, we have culture, climate, and communication.
That would be me. What you're going to see too is I've probably got the least amount to share out, but hopefully you are picking up that all of the great work coming out of all the other priority areas of the strategic plan are obviously helping with culture, climate, and communication across the board. So there's a lot of overlap that's happening to make sure that we do work on these areas. Jill Johnson is a representative with me on that committee, so we've got a lot of those. And then Amy Addington and Dawn Watson are here as well. They have been helping with this committee as well. We have two main goals that we had come up with. One, develop a plan that would strengthen internal and external communication, maximize community partnerships, and promote an educational environment in which individuals feel supported, connected, empowered, and respected. And our second main goal is to enhance the promotion of the district with both internal and external stakeholders. A few things that we've done. One is just with climate, and what we wanted to do on some of these areas was just to make things easier for people. And so we at one point did have a who to call list. It went away, it changed, and we had quite a bit of turnover in some of those offices. So we put that together and got that out to all of our employees regarding who to call in terms of whether it's a human resource issue, capital issue, or a payroll problem with the people that are up there. So we try to connect people with the resources they need in terms of employees. Staff directory, we also have hard copies of those out. And with the help of IT and Darren, there is a live online version, which means we can update in real time. So when you go through the staff directory online, that is continually updated. We did also have the wellness committee, which was mentioned a little bit ago. One way to keep the wellness committee accountable is we now have building level wellness coordinators. So each building has a building level coordinator that is responsible to continue to work with those individual buildings on wellness initiatives. And one big thing we want to do with culture is really start to have consistent practices. And so that's what Dr. Molly has been talking about quite a bit when she keeps mentioning, the collective pride, which is on the next slide, 12 rooms, one house, so that we do have consistent practices among all of our buildings, which will, again, improve culture and climate with our employees. One other thing two things I didn't have on this slide that I just had thought about. One way to, again, make things easier for people, we don't have it done yet, but we're working on it over the summer, and that is to get some of our employee forms in an online accessible version for our employees. So again, little things, but if you think about, I have to go to school, open up this file cabinet and pull this form out to fill it out for tuition reimbursement. Why can't I just do that? And so some of those small, easy things, just to make it easier for our employees to manage day by day. I don't need to bog down our educational staff with paperwork. I want them with the kids. So some of those. The other one, more with culture, is I'm meeting with Tim over the next couple weeks about new teacher orientation. We're looking at figuring out a way to better onboard our employees, and that would be looking at a new teacher academy, where we wouldn't just have a 2-day kind of throw everything at you, hopefully you find it later on, but we would continue to onboard those employees all year long, bringing them up to speed, making sure there's a connection with the right people, and again, just to make them better educators. Some of the communication things were some big items. We started, and Dr. Molly's got superintendent coffees. I know they've been well received. I was fortunate enough to speak at one of those. Employee forum. Dr. Molly's got our student advisory group, and providing district updates through our staff meetings. And then Amy's been working on key communicator network. Amy, do you have anything to add on that one? The key communicators?
We met as a group, and we've been sending out emails to the business folks and leaders of the community as part of the network.
Okay. District Digest, I hope everyone is seeing that coming out through Amy's office as well. That's more of a community newsletter to kind of share what's happening in our school buildings. And then we continue with the collective pride in our districts, focusing on that we are one district. We are 12 rooms, but one house.
Questions or comments? Thank you, Josh. I did want to take the time to highlight, especially with our wellness committees at the building level, the feedback that we received from our staff is that they wanted a district level committee. However, they wanted autonomy at their buildings to actively participate in wellness initiatives that spoke to them. And we all know that different buildings have different cultures, climates, personalities, but in one day and age, it was always this district level, it was either the corporate challenge or everybody had to do something. It was weight loss across the district, and that was a time and a place for that. But what we thought that was really important is that we were responsive to our staff members when they said they wanted to design things that spoke to them. So if they wanted to do things around mindfulness, they had the opportunity to do that. If they did want to do weight loss, they could do that. If they wanted to measure their water intake, or they could do that. If it was team building, anything that would contribute to their social and emotional well-being. So I appreciate, Josh, that you've been able to take the wellness committee to another level. And I think we are all committed in the room, and we've been hearing this for some time. How can we have consistent practices across the district? And I think that will build this sense of collective pride as we really kind of discover along the way. Like I said, do I need to fill out this paper form? And it's like we don't know until the issue comes up or the question comes up, then we go, you need to redo that. We can't do triplicates anymore, no triplicates. So thank you for your work on that, Josh, and your leadership, and Amy as well. Next, we have facilities, and we have Ray, who's here with us this evening. Thanks for coming, Ray.
Yeah.
Well, I figured you'd at least introduce yourself.
All right, so our facilities. I want to thank Julie and Greg for being a part of it. And Julie, your history is valuable, so thank you so much for giving me information that you know about. We have basically 10 topics in our facilities that we've been working on. I'm very proud of how far we've come along this year. We have our study our learning space, and each building with facility support. And we've done that, not only with the principals, which that's the first thing you think of is the principals, but with Cheryl in technology, and Carla, and Laura, Melissa 2 L's, Melissa 1 L, Dawn. You know, we've been able to see what needs to be done from every level within our facilities. And two of the things that we've really highlighted that have come out is we need to upgrade our HVAC systems into our computer labs at the schools. Our computer labs are currently in standard old school classrooms, small classrooms. They can't handle the heat from the high-powered computers that the kids are using these days and can't keep up. So that's something that we're looking to do here soon. Another thing, I think we all know this, that we've really, as we've assessed our facilities, is we need to look for more space. The learning environment has changed over the years, It's not like it used to be. So we're looking for more space. How can we utilize our space? How can we make things better for the kids to learn? So our next topic is complete our building assessment. So back in the first quarter of this year, we contracted with Alpha Facility Solutions, and they did a very detailed plan for us, a layout. I think a lot more than we thought was into it, but it gave us a great guideline as to how we need to spend our money, what we need to upgrade, where we need to start and begin with everything. So it's been a good guideline for us to begin our strategic plan and have an area to go to. Meeting with the team to review the results. As soon as we got our results back, Dr. Motley, Adam, myself, we sat down, along with input from Julie and Greg, about what are our future needs, what are our current needs, how do we need to attack this large document, and we began that process in doing so. Assess the operations to see what can be done in-house. The majority of what we were doing was subcontracted out. We have a lot of talented people in our district, so how can we utilize them? We've provided them with training. Everyone now, is certified in electrical, certified in basic HVAC, certified in plumbing. We're doing a lot more in-house. I'd say 95% of our electrical work is now being done in-house. A year ago, it was all subbed out. If it wasn't changing a light switch, it was subbed out to a contractor. We're now doing all that in-house. We're looking to do other things in-house, such as painting. We're having that discussion. Do we need to bring our painter aboard? Does it make sense? Keep our buildings fresh, bright, ready for the kids to learn. So our fourth, build and understand with all staff that nothing cosmetic will be completed until the results of the assessment arrive. So as our results came in, we realized this is going to be an ongoing thing, probably for the next 5 years, that we have to take a hard look, and there might be some things that we have to say no to cosmetically because we need to get our foundations into place. And I think we're good. We're doing well on that. It's going to be a work in progress. It's a culture change. So, we're working our way there, and it's something we will get to, but it's something we're very cognizant about our spending now. Is it cosmetic? Is it needed? A safety thing, cosmetic, or for learning? So those are kind of how we're looking at it. Implement a new work order system and provide training to the end users. So in November of this year, we implemented FMX as our work order system. It's a lot more detailed than our previous work order system. We currently now with FMX, I lost my spot, sorry. So with FMX, we can do multiple things with that system. It allows us to track our vendor times. So when our vendors come in, and they're charging us for 4 hours, we can look back and say, nope, they punched in at our school at this time, they punched out at this time. We should only be billed for 2 hours. So it gives us that ability. We can also, work on our response times. We can see when we're not responding quickly enough. We can see when we're responding well. It gives us PM alerts. So when it's, fall and the leaves are coming down, we know, hey, we need to get on the roofs. We need to clean out the HVAC systems, get them ready for winter. We need to, grease up our motors so we're not burning up motors and those type things. So it tells us right when it needs to be done. With this tracking system, we've noticed that we now have a 5-day overall response time. But that's a little skewed with a 5-day response time because a lot of things we're waiting on parts for. So that increases our response time. So when you take out the items that we're waiting on parts for, we have a 1.1 day response time. So that has gone from about 10 days to a 1.1 day response time with our current crew and how we are responding to work orders. Our seventh item is create an annual spending plan. Create prioritization standards based on safety, student learning, and cosmetic needs. That's exactly how everything that comes in, every work order that comes in. Safety comes first, student learning comes second, and last but not least is our cosmetic needs. Some cosmetic needs to be done, but the majority of things we're working on is safety and student learning. That's where we are putting our funds into right now. Create an annual spending plan to include annual projects and unforeseen costs. I've been working with Adam since he came aboard. We've created a 5-year spending plan through our PI, as well as some of our general fund money, so we can start the replacements of some of our HVAC. It's costing us a lot of money to repair. If we see that we're sinking a lot of money into one unit, we're gonna replace it now. We have a rotation going in each school for painting to keep our classrooms bright. We're doing 10 classrooms at the high school every year. We're doing 4 at the elementary, or at the junior highs, and 3 at the elementaries. So over a 10-year period, each classroom will be repainted. And we'll continue with that cycle to keep everything vibrant for our students, so they come into a nice environment. Paving, those who drove by Southview, they were paving Cougar Lane today. So now we have a sealing plan. The sealing will start after our paving here, but that plan's going to allow us to not get behind. Right now, our parking lots are in pretty bad shape. So we created a strategy to hit the worst. And each year, we have an allotted amount of funds to put into paving and sealing. So we can keep that rotation going on that as well. Roofing as well. So our roofing, we had a lot of leaks. We're down to 0 leaks, knock on wood. But, so our roofing does save money back each year. That wasn't wood, was it? Not gonna drywall. So we have money set aside right now, and it's not a lot, but we'll be able to keep up with our roofing. And when we see that we're sinking a lot of money into repairs on a roof, let's just replace that section of the roof moving forward. Create a specific communication plan to be transparent with the board, staff, and community. And I think with our newly developed facilities committee and Julie and Greg on it, it allows us to do that. We can have some very open conversations about things that are happening. Amy has also been great about, I'll send her pictures of what we're doing so the public knows where we're spending our money. I just sent her pictures today, and I know she's gonna post. So the public will see, hey, they're getting a new drive on Cougar Drive, and we're gonna have new lines and so on and so forth. So there's that. And establishing the district-wide PM plans. It's gonna be very important for us. A lot of the things that I've seen that we've been spending our money on is, could be prevented. So with our new FMX system and alerting us on the PM plans, we should be able to cut that cost at least in half on things going wrong over the next 5 years. These are some of the items that we're going to be hitting on next year. We started this year, but we're going to have a hard push on them. Getting a very solid short and long-term plan together. Our facilities committee will be working on that. Building the audit and assessments. Understanding our learning space with new instructional demands. So we went to Hall Prairie, we saw some other schools, the way they were learning, the way their spaces were set up, and how do we bring our facilities and our learning to that environment. So we're looking at that. There's a enrollment study underway. I know Adam's been working on that, so we can calculate our growth in Sylvania. We have a lot of new neighborhoods being built to the west, and how's that going to affect our schools? So we have to make sure we have the space for our kids. We've relaunched our facilities committee, as I've already stated, and we will continue to see where we can have cost savings, doing work in-house. We have switched a lot of our vendors. A lot of our vendors were here for 20-some years, and we're racking it to us. We go out to competitive bid for every vendor now. So 90% of our vendors are new vendors coming in, and we're getting a lot better pricing. So that's what I have from the facility side.
Thank you, Ray. Any questions, comments, reflections? Thank you, Ray. I did want to share with those here. I appreciate the emphasis on what it means in the classroom and what instruction and teaching and learning looks like. One of the things we discussed today earlier, Ray briefly mentioned, were about computers in some of our classroom spaces. I learned today that we have computers in classrooms and the HVAC can't handle it. Our computers are sweating. They are so warm, they're sweating. So there's a level of urgency with that because we don't want to have brand new computers that are damaged. And as Cheryl is shaking her head back there, we invest in computers, but then again, the environment can't meet the demand of the computers, so we're putting in fans. And what can we do to cool the room down in order that we don't cause damage to the computers? And I think what will be an important part as we move forward, and Ray spoke to this briefly, is we are undergoing what we need to do, undergoing the process to have a master plan for our facilities. If it's new construction, repurposing, whatever that looks like, we're not resting on our laurels. We have a master plan that will be underway here shortly, and we're excited about that because then we can be very intentional about our work and our next direction for the Sylvania schools. So that concludes our one-year overview of the strategic plan. I hope the board is feeling more informed about how our team has worked with folks across the district, our educators, our community members, internal and external stakeholders, to really help us go down the journey that we set forth when we said we have a 5-year plan. So we are well on our way, and we're excited about what the future holds as we work to accomplish more for our number one asset, the students in Sylvania schools. So thank you for your time and attention tonight as we went through that presentation.
Thank you. I also want to thank all the presenters. When we first started the strategic plan process, it was hard to imagine, that it was, what it was, and we were just going to come up with all these things, and then what? And so this was a really big. This is what we do now, and I thought it was very informative. So thank you. Obviously, a lot of work went into this, so I really appreciate it, and I think hopefully the community tunes in and watches this and to get a sense of what all is happening, because I think it's really important. So thank you. Okay, this is now our first chance for public participation for items that are on our agenda, and we have none. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Dr. Motley.
Thank you. Tonight I recommend item 4.1, which is the appointment of Stephen Urbanski as our Career Readiness Coordinator, as noted on our agenda.
I will second. Call, any questions or comments?
Yes, I have something I would like to share about Steve, or Stephen, but I've known him as Steve. Steve actually graduated from the University of Toledo. He also has served as a Penta Career Center teacher. He's been a math teacher, in fact, so his experience at the Penta Career Center will serve him well in his new capacity here in Sylvania schools. In his career, he served as a cross-country coach and also a track and field assistant, if I read that correctly. And early on, just a little caveat, I believe prior to entering into education, I read that Steve was a furniture specialist at JCPenney, just to let you know. And also he served at the University of Toledo Police Department as an appeals officer. So we'll have to hear some stories about those adventures. I'm sure they're pretty entertaining. He is here tonight with his wife Danielle, and they both are residents of Sylvania. I believe they have 2 children, is that correct? 3 children, all right. And they just came home from Disney, where they had a great time, and they're probably pretty exhausted. But we are happy to have Steve here as part of our family here in Sylvania Schools. So just a little background on Steve, and that's all I have.
Welcome.
Congratulations.
Okay.
I need to call the roll.
Yep.
Julie? Kim?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Thank you. Steve, I didn't know if you had any words you wanted to share this evening.
Very excited. My wife and I are proud residents of Sylvania. Appreciate everything that you have done. That was a very impressive presentation. so excited to be part of the team and help you continue to move forward. Thank you.
Thanks.
Great.
Thank you,
Congratulations.
Steve.
Thank you.
Alrighty, moving on, I recommend item 4.2, recommend the following two administrators administrative transition days up to 10.
I'll move for approval.
A second. Any questions or comments? Call the roll.
Kim,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
Julie.
Yes. I don't want to do this.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Can we just-
Can I just move on 4.2? Skip it, can I just move on? All right. Do I have to?
Be objective. Can you force it?
What if we vote it down? Yeah, just say no. Conversation. Just say no, This one's tough. I don't want to recommend it, but as posted, you'll see an administrative staff resignation with Tim Zeroff, effective July 31st, serving as the Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning. It's bittersweet, although I'm happy for him in his new adventure. It is a loss to Sylvania schools and our team and the families. I know where he lives, so that's a good thing, but his shoes will be hard to fill. He has been a strong team member, family member of the Sylvania schools for I believe 12 years now. And although we wish him the best, item 4.3.
I'll move for approval. I'll second. Any questions, comments?
Yeah, I don't think it's bittersweet, I just think it's bitter. I'm just gonna go on record. I also know where you live. And will be coming by. You know, I wish you well, but I wish you weren't going.
I
And
think,
thank you for, you know, probably other than, maybe you probably know him longer and better than I have. Pretty close, Melissa. Maybe, you know, maybe Cheryl, but I wish you well, Tim.
you'll be missed. Thank you for everything. You've made being a board member very, I could always text you, call you. I appreciate it all. And I'm sure we'll have more chances to thank you as time goes on, but I just want to make it public that we appreciate you. Okay, call the roll.
Greg,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Kim.
Yes.
I recommend item 4.4, which is a service agreement between the Board of Education and Bittersweet Incorporated for ESY services, as noted.
I move approval.
I'll second.
Any questions? Call the roll.
Jill,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Greg.
Yes.
Thank you. I recommend item 4.5, a different service agreement with Bittersweet Incorporated for another student in extended school year.
I move approval.
I'll second.
Any questions or comments? Call the roll.
Julie,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Jill.
Yes.
Thank you. I recommend item 4.6, an agreement with Epic Special Education, which is a name change to the amendment.
I move approval.
I'll second.
Any questions or comments? Okay, call the roll.
Kim,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
Julie.
Yes. Thank you. I recommend item 4.7, an agreement with School Care customer subscriptions for the upcoming school year.
I move approval.
I'll second.
Any questions or comments? Okay, call the roll.
Greg,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Kim.
Yes.
Thank you. I recommend item 4.8, which was a second read for our policy and a procurement policy for our food service department.
I move approval. I'll second.
Any questions or comments? Okay, call the roll.
Jill,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Greg.
Yes.
Thank you. Finally, I have item 4.9, which is a transportation contract with a parent that is for the 22-23 school year.
I'll move for approval.
I'll second. Questions or comments? Call the roll.
Julie,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Jill.
Yes.
Okay, we're with you, Josh.
I will recommend item 5.1 by itself, that's licensed extra duty.
I'll second.
Any questions or comments? Okay, call the roll.
Kim,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
Julie.
Abstain.
Thank you. I'll recommend items 5.2 through 5.5 on a consent agenda basis. 5.2 is a licensed resignation. 5.3 are licensed reduction in force. 5.4, licensed new teachers. And 5.5 is licensed summer school.
I'll move approval on a consent agenda basis, items 5.2 through 5.5.
I'll second.
Any questions or comments? Okay, call the roll.
Greg,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Kim.
Yes.
Thank you. I'll recommend items 6.1 through 6.9 on a consent agenda basis. 6.1 are student lifeguards for the 23-24 school year. 6.2 are classified resignations. 6.3 is a classified termination. 6.4 classified new hires. 6.5 are classified additional hours. 6.6 classified personnel change. 6.7 is a classified voluntary separation of service. 6.8 classified summer positions. And 6.9 is a classified retirement. Thank Priscilla Dickerson for 37 years of service.
I'll move approval on a consent agenda basis, items 6.1 through 6.9. I'll second.
Any comments, questions?
Yeah. Can't believe this district without Priscilla.
I know.
She had reached out to me that she was retiring. I said, no. Priscilla and Tim on the same agenda?
I know. She was the librarian at Highland when my kids started and loved her. Hated to see her go, but I know she was a big help in transportation, so I'm glad she was there when we needed her, so
37 years, it's impressive.
congratulations, Priscilla.
I heard she's coming back as a bus driver.
She told me she was
Are you
going.
serious?
Yeah,
Yes,
she
she's
said
coming
she was
back.
still here.
Yeah, she's gonna drive for us, which is awesome, right? She's fantastic.
She does. Okay, call the roll?
Jill,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Greg.
Yes.
Thank you. I'll recommend items 7.1 through 7.3 on a consent agenda basis. 7.1 are supplemental positions for the 23-24 school year. 7.2 are changes and corrections to supplementals for the 23-24 school year. And 7.3 are athletic volunteers for the 23-24 school year.
I'll move approval on a consent agenda basis, items 7.1 through 7.3.
I'll second.
Any questions or comments? Okay, call the roll?
Julie,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Jill.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, board committee reports. Greg, do you have anything?
Nope, that was done.
Two things. One, on the foundation, they are changing their bylaws to add another board member, so I didn't know if Jody has reached out to ask which board member that might be, knowing those meetings are at 7:30 in the morning. I said, I don't know that anybody's interested in that, but Greg can do those 7:30 meetings. It might be Greg or Tammy by default.
I'll have to think about that.
Yeah, what year do you want to come back? It's 7:30.
I don't know that I
Yeah, yeah, I mean, with young kids, that's probably.
gotta get Brady McCord.
Yeah, 7:30 to 8:30.
Well,
They're Thursdays, like
Second Thursday?
second Thursday of each month at 7:30 a.m. right here. And they keep pretty well to an hour.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
Greg
I will
is
let
it.
you know. The other thing is, I'm sure as everybody's aware, on May 24th, Vicki Donovan Lamb passed away. She was a member of the Board of Education in this district, just a big supporter of the district. She was a board member for more than 16 years. Coached Mont Trial for Southview for almost 3 decades, leading them to world championships and many state titles. Big supporter of the district. And there is a scholarship that has been set up and run through the foundation that will go to a Southview student each year. So
Awesome.
she's gonna leave a legacy.
Good. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Jill?
I really don't have anything. SSB, I was not meeting for the summer SES, Sylvania Services. Excuse me, Sylvania Community Services meets next week, so I may have something for the next board meeting. And transportation.
I don't have anything this week.
And we suggest, it used to be that we used to board video reports just at the regular meeting.
Not the work session.
We never did it at the work session, just once a month since we don't often have stuff to report.
Right, right.
So we might want to go back to that.
Okay.
just
Okay.
at the regular
Good
session.
suggestion.
Yeah, I'd be good with that.
Good suggestion.
Okay, then we have a resolution, item 8.2, resolution for an expulsion appeal. I would like to move for approval. Can I do that if I can't vote on it?
We will.
I weren't there, I was not there.
I'll move for.
Okay, Julie's moving for approval. Any questions or comment on this? Okay, you can call the roll.
Julie,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
Kim.
Abstain. Okay, we are now at our opportunity for public participation for non-agenda items, and we have no one. So now I move that we go into executive session for the purpose of discussing employee compensation of public employees. And we will, well, we'll go ahead and, you second, call the roll?
Kim,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Jill.
Yes.
And we will not be taking action after executive session.